would have known if you're not in this space? Who would have known that there's a great opportunity in this hyper specific niche service? But there sure is. What people actually want is they want connection, not content. Content is secondary.
Right.
And content is often the thing that people will consume because they can't get the connection. Content is fantastic, but go out there and just start putting your ideas up against real world situations. And that's when you're going to really learn what the opportunities are ahead for
Love
you.
that.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast, where you can escape the corporate trap through franchise ownership. Here's your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, the Franchise Guide.
Welcome back. Let's now dive into our conversation with Jason and explore the Entrepreneur Magazine and what the Franchise 500 is all about. I want to dive into the magazine. So this is
Sure.
my cool little thing that I showed you previous here. So
Yeah.
hopefully, I think you can see that. I'm going to put that.
Yeah. I love that.
Entrepreneur. This is January 2006, and I literally get goosebumps as I show
Yeah,
this magazine.
So your host. So for people who are just listening, so you just hosted up. You just hold it up. Hold it up. I'm brutalizing the English language right now. You held up the 2006 edition of so our January issue is always our Franchise 500 issue, and I came to Entrepreneur in 2010 or 16, 2015. So that was before my time. You showed me that right before we recorded. I had not seen that issue before. That's really fun. These things. Can you just hold it back up again so I can just say with no disrespect to my predecessors who were at the magazine at the time, but boy, that's an ugly cover. That is an ugly cover. It's just a big box that says Franchise 500, but
it caught my attention. I bought it. Yeah,
I guess
we're in a different world now.
Yeah.
So other things, maybe not today, but it did then. So.
Right. But that shows you how long we've been doing this. I think this is our 46th year.
Wow.
That we've been making the Franchise 500. And, it's been an honor to be a part of it as long as I have.
That's awesome. Yeah, this was, I remember getting this and a year later, February, so 13 months later, February 5th of 2007, or February 2nd, actually,
Yeah.
I started my first franchise business. So
that's
it really,
great.
really motivated me, started working with a coach, but yeah, just thought that was kind of cool as I'm kind of was clearing out the shelves. So actually, since we got you on, and
Yeah.
I'm sure things have changed, but let's talk about it. End of the year. This is something that the magazine publishes every year. So a few things. What is what would you say the what's the word I'm looking, the selection process for the finalists? That would be my first question.
Sure. Well, let's just orient ourselves in time here as I talk about this. So you said this is an issue, or this episode is going to be released late December of
Should be.
2024.
Should be. Yeah.
You and I are talking on December 4th. So we are actively making this issue right now. The list itself is done, but we're making the issue right now, which is fun. So these are early days for me to be talking about this list. I cannot talk about who has won because that comes out mid-January. So we won't
Okay.
reveal any of that, but everybody can go find that, on newsstands when the issue hits, also at entrepreneur.com/franchise500, when the new list debuts in mid-January. But yeah, so let's talk about the creation of the list. People always want to know. So here's the most important thing to know. It is entirely 100% data driven. We're not making any editorial decisions here. We're not weighing any scales or
Right.
thumbing any scales. We have a great team led by a colleague of mine named Tracy Stapp Harold, who has been doing this for decades. She was definitely involved in that issue that you picked up.
That name sounded familiar when you said.
I'm sure her name is. Yeah, I'm sure her name is throughout it. I mean,
Yep.
she is one of the old guard at Entrepreneur. She's been doing this a long time. She's got it down to a science. She lives and breathes this stuff. And so we send out, we ask franchises, as many as will do it, to submit, their FDD and fill out a whole bunch of information. And we cut off the date of data at July 31st. So the Franchise 500 that will be debuted is actually evaluating data from July 31st of 2023 to July 31st of 2024, because we need a buffer time to be able to crunch this data and turn it into a magazine.
Mhm.
So so that's what it's looking at. And we're looking at hundreds of data points, and that's absolutely everything from, obviously things like, growth of units, And, we're looking at, I'm just pulling up here the 5 pillars of the franchise 500 so I can make sure that I'm getting it right. So here's how we break out the more than 150 data points that we look at. So the categories are costs and fees, size and growth, support, brand strength, and financial strength and stability.
Mhm.
And, within those, there's all sorts of things. So I said support. What does that mean? That means things like we're looking at training times, we're looking at marketing support, we're looking at operational support, franchise or infrastructure, financing availability, all sorts of things. Has the company engaged in litigation? Like all that stuff.
Mhm.
How strong, how trusted, how supportive is this brand? The we tweak the algorithm every year as we weigh data points, more or less, depending on what we believe the market is saying, and what things are worth added consideration. And what pops out is the list. And it is not, people often mistakenly believe that this is just like a list list. Tracy always corrects me. It's not a list, it's a ranking, right? A list
Right.
is just a list. It's a ranking. The ranking is not just ranking companies by size. That would be boring.
Mhm.
So, again, I can't talk, I won't talk about this year's winners, but last year, the number one company was Taco Bell. Taco Bell is not the largest company on the list by a long shot. There are many
Right.
companies above 10,000 units. Taco Bell is not one of them. And also on the top 10 of the list for many years now has been Culver's, which is a kind of regional Midwest fast food chain. And I love that Culver's has shown up in the top 10 many times because it really shows you how a brand can rise on the list without it being all about unit growth. I mean, Culver's is tiny compared to a Taco Bell or a UPS store or McDonald's, which are
Right.
also companies that show up in the top 10 a lot. Culver's, however, has almost zero franchisee turnover. I mean, like they select their franchisees excellently. Those people are set up for success. You see good, strong, consistent year over year, unit profitability growth. There's all sorts of great signs in there that is a strong franchise that
Right.
rises above the rest, despite it being about size. So that's how we do it. It's great. It means literally Tracy and a bunch of data crunchers put their heads down for a while, and then they produce this list, and then they bring it to the editorial team, and then we get cracking on making sure that everyone can understand and appreciate it.
Awesome. So maybe we'll share this. We'll aim sharing in December, and we'll re share the show link, the magazine in January.
Sure.
So we have the updated list. So it's top 500. It's
Right.
not a list. It's a
It's a
ranking
ranking.
based off of industry, right? There's the industry breakdowns. And can you
Yes.
share what's the number? Can you share the pool number of brands that you're looking at? Is there a number that you can share?
I haven't been given, let me see if I can find it from last year. I haven't seen the number of applicants that we got this year. It's always a significant number. If I see if I can find it fast enough here, and if not, I'll just kind of ballpark it. But I remember there being, well, last year it was certainly north of 1,000 and considerably north of it, but I can't find it off the top of my head, or I
A
can't find that.
considerable number. No, that's yeah,
But
that's
no,
a
it's a lot. It's a lot. We hear from a lot of brands, and the breakdown of categories that they end up coming from is, I think, a reflection of where growth and energy is in
Mhm.
the franchise industry at large. So last year, for example, I'll give you the number one category. This is going to surprise absolutely nobody. Was quick service restaurants. Quick service restaurants in last year's franchise 500. Last year being from January of 2024, that there were 104 quick service restaurants on the list. I can tell you that number has gone up slightly
Oh,
in
wow.
2025. After that, there was from last year maintenance. There were 74 brands. Services other is 42. Is a little bit of a catch-all. Personal care businesses was then number four at 40, and then children's businesses was the fifth most popular at 33. So they come from all over the place. But I'll tell
Mhm.
you the thing, this is going to sound so wonky, but the thing that I love seeing the most in the franchise 500 is the new categories.
Mhm.
Because when a type of franchise, when there are enough of a new kind of franchise such that we believe that it's more accurate to break them out into their own category or sub. It becomes this tipping point where, for example, well, here I'll tell you. Here I'll give you a little peek of something, which is that this year in 2025, a couple of new categories included Mediterranean food now has its own category.
Oh, sure.
Hawaiian food now has its own category. Pet grooming has its own category, right? So these would have previously been inside of broader categories. So maybe pet services or something. I can't remember the name, but now there are enough
Different.
pet grooming franchises that are growing and have made the list that it's worth breaking them out into their own category. And I love those because I think that that tells you a lot about what's happening in franchising and also what's just happening in the marketplace
Mhm.
in general, where you can see that in the pet grooming example, for example, that people are spending a lot of money on their pets and they are spending on specialized services for their pets, which means that would tell you that that's a good leading indicator of the growth of that category as a
Yep.
whole and the opportunities in identifying specialized services for pets, right? That's really interesting. Another one that is its own category this year for the first time, hydraulic hose services. Isn't
Yes.
that
Yep.
fun?
Yep.
You know, I love that. So hyper specific, but right, like it's because there's just enough. You would have to backtrack that, right? There's enough usage in heavy machinery industries of hydraulic systems,
Mhm.
which is interesting considering that there's so much electrification happening. But there's clearly growth there. There's need there. Therefore, there's growth in the hydraulic hose services category, such that we had to break it out. And so I love seeing those little nuanced details because that's where something like the Franchise 500 can start to tell you a lot about where money is and where opportunity is.
Absolutely. I like that. Yeah, you do. I mean, there's going to be trends, there's going to be changes. No one maybe is looking at hydraulic hoses, but it's something that makes sense based off of the investment. And, we specialize and not specialize, but we always talk about the characteristics. How does this fit your lifestyle, your investment, where you're located, your growth strategy? Are you
Yeah.
full time, part time? So we spend a lot of time there. So yeah, it is very interesting. Dog waste removal, I didn't
Oh
even know
yeah.
that was a franchise, going back a year or so. And it's
Yeah.
like, wow, all these subcategories, right? It's pet care, but they just do dog waste or
Totally.
animal waste.
I knew that one because one of the things I do is I travel and do a lot of keynote talks, and
Okay.
that includes in the franchise industry. And I was hired a couple years ago to speak at the franchisee convention for Pet Butler, which is one of those
Okay.
dog
Yeah.
waste removal franchises. So it's fun. I mean, who would have known if you're not in the space? Who would have known that there's a great opportunity in this hyper specific niche service? But there sure is. And I went there, I met them all, and great group of people, and they take pet waste removal very seriously.
Yes, it's a great business, and yeah, it's so that's I like that. The market really kind of dictates where the demand is, and especially since COVID, they said including myself, never had any pets aside from we had a few bunnies.
Mhm.
We got a dog. We call a COVID
Yeah,
dog, COVID puppy. So
right. Pandemic puppy, as they say.
pandemic puppy. There you
Yeah.
go. So yeah, so that's absolutely been growing. So that's kind of the trend. So in within franchising,
Mhm.
we'll stick to franchising here. What have you seen AI's impact been? I've seen a lot based off of the franchisors we've worked with, and I've talked about it on previous episodes. But what are you seeing, with AI's impact on franchising?
Well, I don't know. Well, you tell me. I'd actually be very interested to hear this. If there is a lot to say that's very specific to franchising, I would say that AI's impact on franchising is AI's impact more broadly, which right now I believe we are still very firmly, and we will be for quite some time, in the experiment phase
Mm,
of AI. I think people are kind of trying it on for size in every possible way. We're having a lot of conversations about will this replace this? Will it replace
right.
that? My gut is that it will. My gut is that AI is like a microwave oven. And here's how AI is like a microwave oven. A microwave oven is incredible technology. I mean, really mind-blowing technology. Right? You try to explain a microwave oven to someone from 100 years ago. You can't,
Right.
it's like,
True.
it's a box and it heats up your food.
Mm,
Doesn't make sense. So it's incredible technology. It's in everybody's home. But very importantly, we don't make all of our meals in the microwave.
Right.
We don't do that. That's because we spent time figuring out what the microwave was for and what it was not for. And now we have a good understanding of that. So if I'm going to reheat my leftovers for lunch, I'm going to use the microwave. But if my wife and I are making, I say that as if I'm the one cooking the food. I'm a terrible cook. So I clean and she cooks. But, if she's making dinner, then she's not making that in the microwave, not usually. And so that is AI. Right now, we are in the moment in which we are trying to figure out what AI is for, and so we're trying it on for everything. And it's not going to be for everything. It's going to be for some things. It'll have really distinct, interesting
Right.
use cases. And I'm hearing a lot of them. For example, I'm hearing about franchise brands that are feeding in tons of data
Mhm.
all the way up to, having cameras filming what's happening inside of their retail locations and then using that information to make their operations more efficient because they are better understanding waves of foot traffic and how long certain actions take, and they can revise their
Mhm.
operations accordingly. That's really cool. Obviously, there's a lot happening in, like, let's just say the drive-throughs of fast food. So if you drive up to like a Carl's Jr. or something like that, I can't remember if they specifically use this, and you speak to the window and you order a hamburger, you might be talking to a voice AI,
Right.
which is pretty incredible. Now, I love this stuff. There's a lot of concern, obviously, about what this does for jobs. My belief is that this allows people to, number one, be better at the things that we really should have humans for, and bringing their like humanity and real human skills to task. But also, number two, is as this kind of stuff makes things more efficient, it can also increase capacity for order volume, which then requires, frankly, more people to then
Yes.
fulfill it. So I see this stuff as a job creator, not a job killer, and I'm really excited about it. But what are you seeing specifically in franchising?
Yeah, I mean, can it be a job creator? Absolutely, right. I mean, you're just shifting, so maybe your
Right.
function is going to change the job role. As far as what we're seeing with AI, we've seen brands where they're using it to streamline marketing. Utilizing
Sure.
podcasts and really kind of cutting up the video much more efficiently, having a
Yes.
smaller team, kind of automating that. We've seen AI in retail, and I won't name specific brands, but they literally will. So actually, we'll call it an industry, dog grooming,
Hmm.
where they'll actually scan, whether they're scanning. I don't know if it's face recognition technology in your pet. The brand will know who is the quickest groomer, which technicians had issues with that particular pet, the
Yep.
speed, the turnaround and all that. So it's pretty amazing. So they know exactly kind of matching who the groomer is with the pet. I mentioned marketing training. This has been a game changer. So, franchises, they are obviously need staff and employees, but they're a lot of the brands that we've worked with, they're remaining pretty lean. So they're
Hmm.
using AI to, as you mentioned, recording video so that if a technician's stuck on a job site where it's a coatings business where they're
Yeah.
coating, just say vinyl siding, they can input some data and the appropriate videos, not just a regular search, but certain videos will come up. It'll actually match the technician or the franchisee that had the same issue or that recorded the video so that someone can be at 9 o'clock at night utilizing the AI and the technology instead of having to call the corporate office, which requires manpower, or call
Yeah.
the franchise owner. So there's been so many applications add on to CRMs, making the CRM quicker, being able,
Certainly.
lead generation, pulling it into the system. So we've been seeing a lot of things. We're getting an update in January in Houston for our next conference, but I find it interesting. And yes, is it going to kill jobs? Absolutely. But is it going to create jobs? Absolutely. It just
Yeah.
your job role may change. But yeah, I think it's helping to make the business. It's making the business more efficient. On the flip side, it's increasing the bar.
Mhm.
Posting video every day. A lot of people are doing that now. It's super simple. So you're going to have to maybe increase that bar, making sure that now that everyone is doing this, how do you make it better? And to your point, it's the hooks, it's the actual content itself. It's not the number of posts that you're putting out there.
Yeah, and
Um,
and by the way, on that point, which is an important one, 2 things to say. What AI is going to do in a lot of ways is it's going to make things more crowded. That it's going to lower the bar for what is possible and what is even considered good. And so if everyone is able to very quickly produce and chop up a lot of short form video, let's say, then what will happen is there will be an increase, already is, in short form video
Right.
production. My suggestion to you though, if you're watching that and thinking, well, how do I fight on that front? And this isn't just for short form video, this is for anything,
Mhm.
is yeah, fine. You could follow along. You could say, oh, well, everybody's using these AI tools, so I guess I should too. But I think the more powerful thing is to think in a world in which that opportunity is very crowded, what's the white space? And I think that in short form video, for example, although I think actually a lot of people are going to lean into AI produced video or at least AI edited video.
Mhm.
And that stuff is going to be good, not great. And there's going to be a very thick layer of good, not great material out there. I just was
I
talking
agree.
to
Mhm.
I just was talking to somebody who had done some research. I'm going to write about this in Entrepreneur. I'm sure it'll be out by the time people listen to this. Who had done some research on AI produced content on LinkedIn and found that AI produced or what can be assessed as AI produced content. AI produced content got 45% less engagement than human produced content. So be having the human touch, which used to be standard, is actually going to become an advantage. And that's really valuable. Here's another thing is that as everyone starts to produce short form video, I think could lose some of its luster and we could start looking at more interest from viewers in long form.
Mhm.
And so having the ability to produce and think and communicate in more long form ways is then going to be the thing that helps you stand out.
Right.
So don't just chase what people are doing because everyone has the same tool. If everyone has the same tool, then everyone seems
Right.
exactly the same. I
Exactly.
would instead suggest looking what everyone's doing and then figuring out a way to do better.
And sampling, and the other part is sampling. Try
Yeah,
different things.
absolutely.
Try, is it better to upload to LinkedIn natively or, using a scheduler or you
Right.
just try different things and
Yep.
see what's working, see what resonates with people and call it a day. And I talk to a lot of people that don't use schedulers. They just post on LinkedIn, their thought of the day. They
Yeah.
don't post for likes, they post for what's relevant in that day
I think
and
that's great.
hopefully people find it, helpful. Anything else as we're approaching the towards the end of the show? Thoughts, we have a lot of listeners, first time, individuals, corporate execs looking to get
Mm.
out of their job and experience time and financial freedom, whether it's a franchise or owning a business. Any other key pieces of advice? You've seen quite a bit. You've been with Entrepreneur for quite a while now, for close to a decade now. Any big pieces of advice that you'd like to share?
Yeah. So this is going to feel a little counter to to one the the product that someone is consuming right now, which is a piece of content, and to the business that I'm in, which is in producing content. But I have come to think, interestingly, as a guy who spent his entire career in content, I've come to think of content as the second best, more available option. But it's not the thing that people actually want. What people actually want is they want connection, not content. Content is secondary.
Right.
And content is often the thing that people will consume because they can't get the connection, right? So people will read my column in the magazine, for example, because that scales a lot more easily than talking to me. I only have so many hours in the day. The content can be reproduced endlessly. People read the 4-hour work week, not because they're interested in the 4-hour work week, because they really want to know what Tim Ferriss has learned. And you just can't sit down with Tim Ferriss. He's not available.
Right.
I say that as a way of saying this. Look, I think that you should, if what you're interested in is, as you just said there, is financial freedom and freedom of time for the first time in your life, I think franchising can be an incredible opportunity, and you should avail yourself of the kind of content that is out there that can help give you some guideposts and some sense of opportunity there. It's absolutely worth scanning through the franchise 500. You'll find well, frankly, 500 brands that could be right for you, and that's really exciting. Listening to podcasts like this is really exciting. But please do not stop there. Please do not stop there. Instead, what you need to do is be getting out, finding communities of people online. There are incredible communities
Mm.
all over the place. You know, as you had mentioned in the intro, I run one for early stage consumer packaged goods founders, but I've seen the power of these communities online, and they're really incredible. And then you know, identifying people who can be with you and work with you through the process is paramount. You know, I meet a lot of people who just like consume. They just consume content. They become these students of these books.
Mm.
And the challenge of that, I think, is sometimes you can feel like consuming content is the action all by itself,
Right.
and it's not. It's not the action, right? You didn't do anything by reading. What you do, the doing is when you read and then you do something about it. So if you're on the fence, or if you're considering, if you're thinking, there's just nothing better than trying it on for size. And I find that that happens in conversations, that happens by putting yourself in interesting rooms. You know, there was a time a number of years ago where I thought, maybe I want to get into venture capital. And I told a friend of mine that, who's a CEO of a very notable company. He put me in touch with one of the partners at a very notable venture capital firm. I had a wonderful call with that guy. And at the end of it, I said, I don't want to do that at all. And I was really happy that I did that, because what I could have done is I could have sat around like reading about it and like
Yeah.
listening to a million podcasts about it. And I would have never known. What I needed to do was create that human interaction. So content is fantastic, but go out there and just start putting your ideas up against real world situations. And that's when you're going to really learn what the opportunities are ahead for
Love
you.
that. Love that. Yeah. Try it out. I was a financial advisor in my first life, and I said, how do I learn? I was reading. This is, going back in time. So the internet was still pretty new. So I worked with our personal financial advisor for free as an internship. Got to talk to 30 financial advisors. You learn quite a bit. I became a financial advisor as well. And that was my first career. But there were other things I tried I did not like. I liked the idea of creating video games, in
Yeah.
college, until I actually sat down to program. That lasted all of a few hours. So try things out. Talk to other business owners. Don't just talk to one. Talk to, a dozen different owners. What do you like? What don't you like? And you start to put it all together, because at the end of the day, this content, you need an action plan. You got to do something with that information, especially if the goal is to do something, to own that business or start that new career. You got to put it in action. So yeah, the book Who Not How is a book I talk about. It's who can
Mm,
help you, kind of like a Tim Ferriss. He boils it down. All these hundreds of thousands of hours of learning
yeah.
into a book. So take advantage of that. Take advantage of the podcasts and the shows. You'll learn quite a bit, and then find couple mentors and some people that could really show you the ropes, and you can experience it firsthand. So I love that. I think that's the best advice. And that's the advice I'm giving my 17-year-old son as we speak,
Excellent.
as he's a junior in high school. This was awesome. No, I really enjoyed the show. So what we'll do is we'll share the show end of December, and then I'm going to reshare it again once the top 500 list is live.
Yeah.
And then I'll link that to the,
Ranking.
to the site.
Ranking. You gotta call it
The ranking.
Yeah. Well, it's an easy mistake to make. I've been making it for years.
What does it say? I'm actually looking exclusive to it just says top. It doesn't say. I've been looking at this episode for so long. I mean, at this edition so long.
Discover,
So
yeah.
the ranking. So we'll get that. We'll link it out again. But I really appreciate your time. We'll add all your info in the show notes. So if anyone wants to follow, Jason for any of his information, check out his LinkedIn. I would highly recommend starting there. Check it out. And again, a pleasure joining us today, and I hope to talk to you very soon.
Oh, well, hey, thanks for having me. Thanks to everyone for spending your time with us. And yeah, if you have any questions, just follow me on LinkedIn and reach out.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn how to make the transition from corporate to owning your franchise, join Giuseppe on the next episode. You can also follow on all social media platforms and achieve financial and time freedom today.